the galaxy's only Deathworlders, or so they thought. Until they met humans. The Galactic Research Council chamber hummed with nervous energy as 200 of the most brilliant minds from across known space gathered for what would become the most significant meeting in our history. I, Zyk-Tal, chief xenobiologist of the Seventh Arm, stood at the central podium, my scaled hands trembling slightly as I arranged my data crystals. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, its vast dome stretching nearly a kilometer high, with curved walls designed to amplify even the softest whisper to the furthest seats. Around me, representatives from 97 spacefaring species filled the tiered seating rings, their bodies reflecting the incredible diversity of life in our galaxy. From the gaseous mist walkers of Nebula Prime to the silicon-based rock shapers of the Outer Rim, each species had evolved to survive in their own gentle corners of space. But today we weren't here to discuss them. No, today was about the apex survivors, the species that had conquered what we termed Deathworld's planet, so hostile that merely setting foot on their surface would kill most sentient beings. First speaker Lu Min floated forward in her gravity bubble, her bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with anticipation. Honored colleagues, her voice resonated through the chamber. We have gathered to hear the findings of Chief Xenobiologist Zyk-Tal regarding the recent categorization of Deathworld species and the remarkable discoveries made about the Drachnid civilization. I cleared my throat, a habit picked up from my time studying lesser primates. Thank you, first speaker. For the past 50 cycles, my team has documented and analyzed every known species that evolved on worlds we classify as hostile to life. Until now, we believed the Drachnids held the undisputed title of ultimate survivors. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Everyone knew of the Drachnids, with their triple-layered armor plating and ability to survive in environments that would reduce most species to their constituent atoms. Their homeworld, Draknar, was a nightmare of acid storms and gravitational fluctuations that would crush most starships. The Drachnids, I continued, bringing up a holographic display of their world, evolved on a planet with surface gravity 3.2 times galactic standard. Their atmosphere contains enough corrosive elements to dissolve standard hull plating in under 6 minutes. Average surface temperatures range from 40 degrees below freezing to 60 degrees above during a single rotation. The hologram shifted to show a Drachnid in full glory, 4 meters of armored threat, with backup organs and enough natural weapons to make a military vessel feel inadequate. They are, by every measure we have established, the perfect example of evolution in hostile conditions. Their advancement to a spacefaring civilization should have been impossible. And yet, I paused for effect, something I had learned enhanced dramatic revelations. And yet, they did it. They mastered their environment, developed technology to survive even harsher conditions, and joined our galactic community. For 3,000 cycles, they have stood as living proof that life can triumph over even the most hostile conditions nature can create. A quantum thinker from the upper tiers pulsed with curiosity. You speak in past tense, Chief Zyk-Tal. Has something changed? My outer membrane rippled with excitement. Yes, honored colleagues. Something has changed everything we thought we knew about the limits of evolution and survival. My team has discovered evidence of a species that makes the Drachnids look like creatures evolved in a pleasure garden. The chamber erupted in protests and exclamations of disbelief. First speaker Lu Min's gravity bubble wobbled as she raised her appendages for silence. These are extraordinary claims, Chief Zyk-Tal. What evidence do you have? I activated my second data crystal, projecting a new image above the chamber. Colleagues, I present to you Earth, a death world that defies everything we thought possible. And its inhabitants, I brought up the next image, the species that calls themselves humans. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the quantum thinkers stopped their usual background calculations. In that moment, none of us realized we were about to learn just how wrong we had been about the limits of life, survival, and evolution. The humans were about to change everything, assuming, of course, they didn't accidentally kill us all first. The first documented encounter with humans occurred in the disputed regions of the Spiral Arm, where our research vessel, the Star Seeker, was conducting routine atmospheric analysis of a gas giant. I was aboard as part of my ongoing research into extreme environment adaptation, though none of us expected to find anything more interesting than some hardy microorganisms. Our sensors detected the unknown vessel approximately 3 light minutes from our position. At first we assumed it was another Drachnid scout ship, as they were the only ones foolish enough to venture into these radiation-soaked sectors without heavy shielding. But as the ship drew closer, our confusion grew. Chief Sektal called out Navigator Prell from her sensor station, her crystalline eyes reflecting the data streams. The vessel's construction appears to be primitive. Their radiation shielding is barely adequate for deep space travel. I moved to her station, my protective exoskeleton whirring softly. Impossible. Nothing could survive in this sector with such minimal protection. Run the scans again. Before she could comply, a communication request pinged our systems. After a brief debate about safety protocols, Captain Venra authorized the connection. The holoscreen flickered to life, and we had our first view of a human. This is Captain Alexandra Reeves of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon's Dream. We come in peace and seek friendly contact. The bridge crew fell silent. The being on our screen looked so vulnerable. No protective plating, no redundant systems visible, not even basic radiation dampeners around their vital organs. Just soft pink flesh and a covering of synthetic materials that couldn't possibly offer meaningful protection. Captain Venra recovered first. Greetings, Captain Reeves. Your vessel appears to be in grave danger. Our sensors indicate the local radiation levels exceed safe parameters for organic life by several orders of magnitude. We stand ready to assist with emergency evacuation. The human captain's face contorted in what we would later learn was an expression of amusement. That's very kind of you, but we are perfectly fine. Our shielding is well within human safety tolerances. None of us knew how to respond to that clearly impossible statement. I stepped forward, my scientific curiosity overriding protocol. Pardon my directness, Captain, but our readings indicate your ship's hull is allowing through enough radiation to kill most known species within minutes. Oh, that Captain Reeves waved a hand dismissively. It's about equivalent to what we deal with on long-haul flights back home. Nothing our bodies can't handle with basic countermeasures. Speaking of which, would you be interested in a face-to-face meeting? We'd love to learn more about your species. Before we could explain why such a meeting would be fatal for them, they had already begun docking procedures. Our automated systems engaged, and to our horror, we realized we couldn't stop the process without risking damage to both vessels. Quick, Captain Venra barked, seal all internal bulkheads and initiate emergency radiation protocols. We scrambled to protect these seemingly suicidal humans from their own ignorance. I rushed to the docking bay with a portable shield generator, determined to save at least a few specimens for study. What I witnessed next changed my understanding of life itself. The airlock cycled and Captain Reeves stepped through with 2 crew members. They wore no protective suits, no radiation shields, nothing but their simple fabric uniforms. One of them, who introduced herself as Dr. Samira Patel, pulled out a small device and began taking readings of our bay. Fascinating atmospheric composition, she said, making notes on a primitive digital tablet. Though you might want to check your artificial gravity, it seems a bit low. I stood there, my sensor readings telling me these humans should be dead, while they casually discussed our ship specifications as if they were touring a garden. Captain Reeves noticed my distress and approached, extending her hand in what I would later learn was a traditional greeting. Is everything all right? You seem concerned. I managed to find my voice. The radiation levels in this sector. Your minimal shielding. How are you still alive? She laughed, a sound that made several nearby crew members jump. Oh, that? Humans evolved with constant background radiation. Sure, these levels are a bit higher than Earth normal, but nothing we can't handle. Our cells have pretty robust repair mechanisms. Dr. Patel chimed in, her eyes bright with professional interest. Plus, we have got some genetic adaptations that help us deal with radiation damage. Really interesting stuff. I'd love to compare notes on xenobiology if you are interested. I looked at my radiation detector, then back at the impossibly healthy humans. In that moment, I realized that everything we thought we knew about the limits of life would need to be reevaluated. These humans weren't just surviving in conditions we considered lethal, they were completely unbothered by them. As I watched Captain Reeves and her crew explore our docking bay with childlike enthusiasm, I sent an urgent message to the Galactic Research Council. We had drastically underestimated what constituted a death world and what life could adapt to survive. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of our revelations about human capabilities. Following our initial contact with humans, the Galactic Council arranged a formal diplomatic meeting aboard Space Station Zenith. The station was chosen specifically because its environmental systems could accommodate multiple species simultaneously, with separate atmospheric chambers for everyone's comfort and safety, or so we thought. The human delegation arrived 2 solar cycles early, led by Captain Reeves and accompanied by Dr. Patel and 3 other crew members. Our station's safety officer, Raul Nick, nearly suffered neural shutdown when they emerged from their ship wearing what he described as decorative fabric coverings. Honored humans, he sputtered through his environmental suit speakers, "We have prepared a special sealed chamber for your protection. Please allow me to escort you there immediately." Captain Reeves smiled that disarming human expression again. "Thank you, but we are comfortable breathing the station's standard atmosphere. According to our scans, it's not too different from what we have back on Earth, just a bit thin." The safety officer's tail appendages curled in distress. But, the atmospheric pressure is calibrated for maintenance drones. The oxygen content alone would be toxic to most carbon-based life forms. Dr. Patel pulled out her ever-present tablet. "Actually, these oxygen levels are similar to what we experience at high altitudes on Earth. Some of our cities are built in locations with even thinner air. Though I would love to study how your species handles oxygen processing if you are willing to share data." Before Raul Nick could properly malfunction, First Speaker Lu Min arrived in her gravity bubble, accompanied by representatives from 12 major spacefaring species. The Drachnid ambassador, Supreme Commander Vexnar, brought up the rear, his armored form barely fitting through the station's reinforced corridors. "Welcome, honored humans," Lu Min's translated voice echoed through the chamber. "We have prepared special accommodations for your unique requirements." She gestured toward a sealed chamber equipped with what our engineers assumed would be necessary for human survival: thick radiation shielding, atmospheric scrubbers, pressure regulators, and emergency stasis fields in case of containment failure. Captain Reeves examined the chamber with diplomatic politeness. "While we appreciate the thought, perhaps we could meet in the main conference room? It would make conversation easier." The assembled diplomats exchanged worried glances. Supreme Commander Vexnar stepped forward, his armored plates clicking. "Surely you jest. The main conference room is exposed to standard station conditions. Even we Drachnids require protective measures there." "Oh, it will be fine," Lieutenant James Parker, one of the human crew members, chimed in. "We checked the specs. Nothing in there we haven't handled before." What followed was a lengthy debate about safety protocols, during which the humans patiently tried to explain concepts that defied our understanding of biology. Finally, against better judgment but unable to find a diplomatic way to refuse, we agreed to convene in the main conference room. The meeting began smoothly enough. Captain Reeves presented fascinating data about Earth's various environments, causing several xenobiologists in attendance to require calming supplements. Dr. Patel discussed potential scientific exchanges, while diplomatically avoiding mention of how many of our safety protocols were unnecessary for humans. Then the accident happened. A maintenance drone malfunctioned, crashing into one of the primary atmospheric regulators. Warning sirens blared as the room's atmosphere began venting into space. Emergency force fields snapped into place, but not before the pressure dropped to near vacuum levels. The Drachnid representatives activated their survival systems. The Mistwalkers condensed into their emergency forms. First Speaker Lu Min's gravity bubble expanded to create a protective sphere. But 3 junior diplomats from less durable species were caught without protection. What happened next occurred so quickly that our security recordings had to be analyzed at reduced speed to fully document it. The humans who we had been so worried about protecting sprang into action. Captain Reeves and Lieutenant Parker sprinted across the depressurized room, scooped up the struggling diplomats, and carried them to the nearest emergency shelter. Dr. Patel and the other human crew members worked with impossible efficiency to seal the hull breach, using nothing but emergency repair kits and what appeared to be decisively applied brute force. They moved through the near vacuum as if it were merely an inconvenience, coordinates existing breaches, and calling out repair strategies to each other through the thin atmosphere. Supreme Commander Vexnar watched in stunned silence as these supposedly fragile beings accomplished in minutes what would have required a fully equipped repair crew in environmental suits. When emergency teams finally arrived, they found the humans administering first aid to the affected diplomats, apparently unbothered by the fact that they had just survived conditions that should have been instantly fatal. "Is everyone okay?" Captain Reeves asked, helping a shaken quantum thinker to its feet. "We should probably get medical teams to check everyone for decompression effects." First speaker Lu Min's gravity bubble contracted slightly, her species equivalent of speechless shock. You saved them. Without protective equipment. In vacuum." "Well, not complete vacuum," Dr. Patel corrected, still making notes on her tablet. "There was about 0.1 psi of atmosphere remaining. Humans can handle brief exposure to near-vacuum conditions, though I wouldn't recommend it for extended periods." "Brief exposure," Lieutenant Parker added with a grin, "is relative. Current record for human vacuum survival is around 3 minutes, though we try not to test that if we can help it." The diplomatic meeting was officially suspended for safety investigations, but its unofficial purpose had been more than accomplished. As I watched the human delegation casually help with repair efforts, still chatting and making notes about the experience, I realized we had completely misunderstood who needed protection from whom. The Drachnid ambassador approached me later, his usual intimidating demeanor somewhat subdued. "When your initial report claimed humans evolved on a world more challenging than Drachnar, I thought you were exaggerating. I now suspect you might have understated the case." Looking at Captain Reeves discussing improved emergency protocols with the station's safety officer, while Dr. Patel enthusiastically explained human decompression resistance to a group of fascinated xenobiologists, I could only agree. We had discovered something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that thrived in conditions that even our maintenance drones found challenging. Following the space station incident, the Galactic Research Council authorized an unprecedented study of Earth and human physiology. As chief xenobiologist, I led the research team, working closely with Dr. Patel, who seemed endlessly amused by our reactions to basic Earth data. Our first shocking discovery came from simple atmospheric analysis. Earth's atmosphere contained significant amounts of corrosive oxygen, far more than any known sentient species could tolerate. When we expressed our concern, Dr. Patel casually mentioned that humans actually required oxygen to survive. "You mean your species breathes corrosive gas as a biological necessity?" my assistant Venka asked, her recording tendrils writhing in disbelief. "Not only that," Dr. Patel replied, "but we originally evolved in an environment with even higher oxygen levels. Our ancient ancestors lived in a world with oxygen levels that would be toxic to us now." But the revelations about Earth's atmosphere paled in comparison to what we learned about the planet's other characteristics. The research team needed 3 full cycles to verify our gravitational readings, convinced our equipment must be malfunctioning. "Your species evolved on a planet with gravity nearly 3 times stronger than galactic standard," I stated during one research session, "yet you move as if you were in low-gravity environments." "That explains why everything feels so light out here," Lieutenant Parker commented while casually lifting a cargo container that would require mechanical assistance for most species. "We were wondering about that." The more we studied, the more terrifying Earth appeared. The planet experienced regular electromagnetic storms capable of disrupting advanced technology. Massive geological instabilities caused frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. The temperature variations between regions and seasons were so extreme that our environmental modeling computers initially rejected the data as impossible. Most horrifying was the revelation about Earth's biological diversity. While most life-bearing worlds evolved a carefully balanced ecosystem of cooperating species, Earth was a planetary war zone. Every human grew up surrounded by countless organisms trying to kill them, from microscopic pathogens to massive predators. "You mean to tell me," Supreme Commander Vexnar interrupted during my presentation to the Council, "that humans evolved while constantly fighting other species?" "Not just fighting," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "According to their historical records, humans have systematically hunted creatures many times their size to extinction, They call it persistence hunting. They simply chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion. The council chamber erupted in murmurs of disbelief and fear. The humans had seemed so peaceful, so friendly. The idea that they were apex predators who had evolved to outlast and overcome any challenge was disturbing to many species. First speaker Lu Min's gravity bubble pulsed with concern, and their technological development. Surely such harsh conditions would have slowed their progress. Quite the opposite, I explained, bringing up a timeline of human advancement. The constant environmental challenges appear to have accelerated their innovation. When faced with an obstacle, humans simply invent a solution. Their technological progress has been exponential, far outpacing any known civilization. But surely they must have weaknesses, a quantum thinker called from the upper tiers. Environmental vulnerabilities, biological limitations. I brought up the next data set, showing human adaptation capabilities. Humans can survive in environments ranging from Arctic ice to burning deserts. They can go days without water, weeks without food. Their bodies can repair radiation damage, rebuild from severe injuries, and adapt to almost any environment. Even their recreational activities would qualify as survival challenges on most worlds. The council watched in stunned silence as I displayed footage of human sports and leisure activities, rock climbing without safety equipment, swimming in freezing waters, running marathon distances for fun. What other species would consider extreme survival situations humans called entertainment? There is one more thing, I added, my voice growing quiet. We discovered why humans seem so comfortable in space. Their planet's conditions are so variable, so extreme, that space travel actually presents fewer environmental challenges than their daily life on Earth. What we consider survival circumstances, they consider mild inconveniences. As my presentation concluded, a heavy silence fell over the council chamber. We had all realized the same thing: humans weren't just another spacefaring species. They were something entirely new, beings who had evolved in conditions we had thought impossible for intelligent life. Captain Reeves and her crew had shown us only the smallest fraction of human capabilities. They had been careful, gentle even, in their interactions with us. And that, perhaps, was the most terrifying revelation of all. Just how much were they holding back to make us comfortable? The Drachnid attack on the human colony of New Terra caught the Galactic Council completely off guard. Supreme Commander Vexnar, apparently threatened by the revelations about human capabilities, had decided to eliminate what he saw as a potential rival species before they could fully establish themselves in the galaxy. I was present in the Council emergency session when the news arrived. The Drachnids had deployed their entire Third Fleet, nearly 400 warships, against a colony of barely 50,000 humans. The council chamber erupted in chaos. "We must send aid immediately," First Speaker Lu Min declared, her gravity bubble flickering with agitation. "The humans have no defensive fleet in that sector." Captain Reeves, attending as Earth's temporary representative, raised her hand for attention. The chamber fell silent, everyone expecting to hear a desperate plea for help. Instead, she smiled. "While we appreciate the concern," she said calmly, "the situation is under control. Our colonial defense forces were alerted as soon as the Drachnid fleet began moving." Defense Forces Supreme Commander Vexnar's second-in-command scoffed from the Drachnid section. "Our scans showed no military installations, no orbital defenses, not even basic planetary shields." "Oh, those scans," Dr. Patel chimed in from her observer seat, not even looking up from her tablet. "Did you account for the fact that we use your supposedly lethal radiation bands for communications? No? Interesting." Before anyone could process that casual revelation, the main display lit up with incoming footage from New Terra. The Drachnid fleet had arrived in orbit, their massive warships descending through the atmosphere in standard invasion formation. What happened next defied all military doctrine and common sense. The humans had transformed their entire mining operation into a defensive network. What the Drachnids had dismissed as primitive excavation equipment turned out to be disguised weapon platforms. Every civilian shelter doubled as a military bunker. The colonists themselves, rather than panicking, moved with practiced precision to battle stations. "That cannot be correct," the Drachnid commander protested, pointing at the tactical display. Your civilians are entering hard radiation zones without protection. They will die before our troops even reach them. Those radiation zones, Lieutenant Parker replied from his position near the human delegation. We put them there on purpose. Makes for great cover, and it plays havoc with your targeting systems. The council watched in stunned silence as the human colonists executed what they later called a textbook defense. They had studied Drachnid military tactics and developed counters for each one. When Drachnid drop ships attempted to land in the colony's central plaza, they found the ground beneath them had been subtly undermined. When they tried to deploy their feared shock troops, the humans simply turned up the atmospheric pressure until the Drachnid armor began to buckle. This is impossible, Vexnar's subordinate sputtered. These are miners and farmers. You seem confused, Captain Reeves noted pleasantly. On Earth, most of our military forces are reservists. Every colony includes veterans from various services. Those miners you dismissed? They used to be combat engineers. The farmers? Former special forces. That grandmother running the communication hub spent 30 years as a tactical analyst. The display showed a group of human colonists wearing what appeared to be simple environmental suits, systematically disabling Drachnid heavy armor. They moved with incredible speed despite the high gravity, using the lethal environment as cover. Are they singing? My assistant Venka asked in disbelief. Old combat tradition, Lieutenant Parker explained. Helps maintain unit cohesion and keeps everyone's spirits up. That one is a classic called When Johnny Comes Marching Home. The Drachnid fleet, facing unexpected resistance on the ground, attempted to bombard the colony from orbit. That was when we learned about the humans' other preparations. The colony's geothermal power plants doubled as planetary defense weapons. The supposedly primitive atmospheric processors could generate targeted electromagnetic pulses. We found your invasion plans 6 months ago, Dr. Patel mentioned casually, still making notes. They were quite ambitious, but you really should have considered the environmental factors more carefully. Did you know humans can actually sense electrical fields under certain conditions? Makes hiding stealth ships really difficult. The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it ended, the Drachnid Third Fleet was in ruins, their ground forces had surrendered, and the human colonists were organizing search and rescue operations for their defeated enemies. You could have destroyed them completely, First Speaker Lu Min observed. Why show mercy? Captain Reeves shrugged, a human gesture of casual dismissal. They made a mistake based on incomplete information. Now they have better information. Besides, the Drachnids are the closest thing to us we have found so far. It would be a shame to waste all that potential. Supreme Commander Vexnar, watching his forces surrender to the very species he had tried to eliminate, finally understood the true magnitude of his error. The humans had not just defeated his attack, they had done so while deliberately limiting themselves to avoid unnecessary casualties. How he demanded. How did simple colonists defeat our elite forces? Simple, Lieutenant Parker laughed. Have you seen what it takes to establish a colony? You have to terraform hostile environments, create self-sustaining infrastructure, and survive everything a new planet throws at you. Compared to that, defending against an invasion is straightforward. The remarkable thing about humans, I found myself explaining to the Council, is not that they can fight. It is that they can adapt to any challenge, turning disadvantages into advantages. They did not just survive their death world, they learned to thrive in conditions that should be impossible. Captain Reeves nodded approvingly. Exactly. We did not become what we are by being the strongest or the most aggressive. We got here by being the most adaptable. Every problem is just a puzzle waiting to be solved. As the Council digested this information, Dr. Patel finally looked up from her tablet. By the way, we have compiled a fascinating dataset on Drachnid combat tactics and physiological responses to various environmental stressors. Would anyone be interested in collaborating on a research paper? One standard cycle after the failed invasion of New Terra, I found myself back in the Galactic Council chamber, presenting my final report on human integration into galactic society. The chamber looked quite different now, with several structural modifications suggested by human engineers to improve its environmental adaptability. First Speaker Lu Min hovered in her gravity bubble, which now sported several human-inspired safety modifications. Chief Xenobiologist Zeke Tao, please share your conclusions about the recent paradigm shift in our understanding of survival capabilities. Honored colleagues, I began, noting the presence of both human and Drachnid representatives sitting together in what they called the Deathworlders section. The events at New Terra forced us to completely reevaluate our definitions of species resilience and adaptation. The main display showed footage from the new Galactic Defense Academy, where human instructors were teaching mixed species groups about survival techniques. Captain Reeves appeared in one clip, demonstrating how to create water filtration systems from salvaged equipment while in vacuum. As you can see, the humans have not only shared their defensive capabilities but also their unique approach to problem solving. The most remarkable aspect is not their physical resilience, but their mental adaptability. The display shifted to show Dr. Patel working with a team of Drachnid scientists, developing new environmental suits based on human design principles. Supreme Commander Vex Nar, now a leading advocate for human Drachnid cooperation, nodded approvingly. Their greatest strength, I continued, lies not in their ability to survive hostile conditions, but in their drive to help others do the same. They view challenge not as a threat, but as an opportunity for growth. Lieutenant Parker appeared on screen, teaching a group of various species what humans called parkour in different gravity environments. Several quantum thinkers floated nearby, calculating trajectory modifications in real time. The humans have also learned from us, I noted, showing footage of human colonists incorporating alien technological advances into their infrastructure. They call it convergent evolution of ideas, taking the best aspects of different approaches to create something new. And the Drachnid situation, first speaker Lu Min inquired delicately. I switched to recent footage from New Terra, where human and Drachnid engineers were collaborating on a new type of colonial habitat. What could have been a devastating conflict has instead become one of the most productive technological partnerships in galactic history. Those who better to work with than the species who came closest to understanding our perspective, Captain Reeves commented from her seat. The Drachnids evolved in conditions similar to Earth. They get our jokes about radiation levels. Supreme Commander Vex Nar made a sound that translated roughly as laughter. We thought we were the ultimate survivors until we met humans. Now we realize survival is not about being the strongest, but about being the most innovative. The display showed a training session where human instructors were teaching various species their emergency protocols. A mistwalker had become tangled in their environmental suit, and rather than panicking, calmly quoted what had apparently become a human safety mantra: if you stay calm, you have time. If you have time, you can solve it. Perhaps most significantly, I concluded, humans have taught us that categories like Deathworlder are less about physical capabilities and more about mentality. They survived their harsh world not by becoming invincible, but by refusing to accept any problem as unsolvable. Dr. Patel raised her hand, her tablet conspicuously absent for once. Speaking of solving problems, we are ready to begin trials on the new multi-species spacesuit design. Any volunteers? Several council members immediately volunteered, including species that had previously refused to consider spacewalks under any circumstances. The change in attitude was remarkable. One final note I added as my report concluded. The humans have submitted a proposal to establish what they call an Extreme Environment Research Center. They suggest using the facility to study survival techniques that could benefit all species. And where do they propose building this center? First speaker Lu Min asked. Captain Reeves grinned. We thought starting with something simple would be best. Perhaps that volcanic moon in the Centauri system? The one everyone keeps calling uninhabitable. As the council chamber erupted in excited discussion, I watched human and alien representatives planning future collaborations. My initial report about humans had described them as the ultimate Deathworlders, but I had missed the most important point. Humans had not just mastered survival in harsh conditions, they had learned to thrive in them, and now they were teaching others to do the same. Somewhere in the background, I could hear Lieutenant Parker explaining to a fascinated group of xenobiologists why humans considered walking on hot coals a team-building exercise. Some things about humans, I decided, would always remain wonderfully mysterious.